As one does, the other day, I was watching The Wolf Girl and the Black Prince to ingest my daily dose of long-form rage bait. Until suddenly, at one of the episodes where they go on their first date, Kyouya says this.
それよりそろそろ帰ろうぜ。居心地悪すぎるんだよ。
やだ、まだ何もしてないじゃん。
花は十分見ただろう。目的達成したじゃねえか。
And all of a sudden, the way I view the entire show completely changed for me. The experience of watching this show became much, much more enjoyable as I realized, oh my god, he's autism coded.
But I'm a creep. I'm a real dog.
Now, obviously, the authors are not woke enough to have a neurodivergent inclusive cast. We can see this by the fact that it's the 2010s and they were in the headspace of, trans woman. Oh, she must be a predator. And also just the sexist attitude. Like when she falls and he's like, you're lowering your value as a woman. Man. Anyway, basically, I know that this is not intentional representation. You know, he was written to be the stereotypical 2010 Shoujo lead who is nonchalant and is a playboy but doesn't really actually do anything. And also a stereotypical tsundere character, which means he's too prideful and scared to show his emotions and instead defaults to aggression. Now, my first disclaimer is that I haven't read the manga, so my headcanon is based on what I've seen in the anime, so it may completely crumble with whatever information is in the manga. Secondly, this is very obvious, but I feel the need to say it, this is not a serious diagnosis. I just want to share my headcanon that made the show much more nuanced for me with everyone else so that they could view the show with a fresh pair of eyes and enjoy it as much as I did. So in the first part of my video, I'm just going to list a bunch of the autistic traits that I see in him and sort of present my argument as to why I think he's an unintentionally neurodivergent coded character. And please do keep in mind that having autistic traits does not necessarily mean that you are on the spectrum. It's more so when they stack up. And this is because each autistic trait can be attributed to another factor. For example, Kyouya dislikes crowds. And I think he also mentions sounds. And this could be explained as sensory difficulties, which is an autistic trait, but also a lot of neurotypical people are going to dislike being in a crowded and loud environment for long periods of time. So basically, these autistic traits on their own, they are not at all like a 100% justification for him to be a neurodivergent coded character. It's because they stack up. So when you just look at one of these traits, like I'm going to be like, he doesn't like crowds. He misses nonverbal cues. Everyone misses nonverbal cues. Everyone dislikes crowds sometimes. It's just that they stack up. So do not evaluate my examples one by one, evaluate them as a whole picture. Now, obviously, we don't know much about his routines because this anime does not go into his interests, hobbies, like what he does, like at all. But we do know that he doesn't like to go out, even if it's a special day, and he just wants to sit at home and watch the DVDs that he likes. He also misses nonverbal social cues from not just Erica, but like a lot of people around him. They go to his mom's house and he eats the food and he just like leaves, goes to his room, which is like real. I've done that. But it's not something that neurotypicals consider normal. Like his sister is like, dog, what are you doing? What the fuck? That's so rude. Or for example, Erica catches him with a lady in his house. Who the fuck was that lady, by the way? He was like, she picked me up from town. What? So she's like a predator? Okay, so what? Anyway, basically, Erica's there and she's obviously there because she likes him. And she's sort of looking for an explanation from him as to why she was there. And first of all, he doesn't understand that she's looking for that explanation. Second of all, he doesn't understand why she wants that explanation in the first place. Or when Eric is blushing and he's like, have you caught my fever? Another example for this is when Erica confesses her feelings to him and she's waiting for his response. And she's like, so? And he's like, what? What do you want from me? Or when they're in Kobe and she's about to meet his mom, so she's quite nervous, you know, you're meeting your significant other's mother, your significant other's other mother. And she's like, what kind of a person is she? What do I do? And he's just like, what do you mean? Like, she's just an old lady. And then his sister is like, don't worry, girl. Like, she gets it. Also, when they're dressed in yukatas before they go to the festival, and Erica's like, Kyouya, what do you think? She wants him to compliment her yukata, and he doesn't get that. And his sister's like, are you going to say anything else? And he like still doesn't get it. Also in the segment where he's sick, he's struggling to understand why she's there. And one of my favorite examples is when she's talking about how she's going to be completely free throughout the summer holiday, expecting him to be like, let's hang out. And he's just like, oh, that sounds so nice. He also systemizes, which is the fancy way to say logical and analytical thinking. So he views a lot of things from an emotion detached perspective, purely based on pros and cons and logic.
もしかしてただでこんなめんどくせえこと引き受けてもらえると思ってる。釣り竿見えてるだろ。
模型
黒子バレバレだな。
He also shows a lot of literal thinking, meaning that he takes a lot of things for face value and doesn't look for an abstract or implied meaning behind it. My favorite example for this is when it's Erica's birthday and he's like, well, we're going to spend the whole day together, right? Because she made an offhand comment that was like an exaggeration of them spending the whole day together, and he took that at face value.
花は十分見ただろう。目的達成したじゃねえか。
何もしないってこと？
なんだそれ。そう言ってんだろ。
わかった。まだ熱あんだ。
ねえっつの。さっき測ったプレゼントってやつだ。
嘘。嬉しい。開けていい？
もう開けてるじゃねえか。
超可愛い。京也くんが選んでくれたの？
俺はクリックしただけだ。
And sort of in line with this is sort of like a strong moral code, where, for example, when he says if he loses rock, paper, scissors, he'll go out and he follows through. And the biggest evidence for this is the fact that he truly honors their agreement that he's going to pretend to be Erica's boyfriend and she's going to be his dog. He also has good pattern recognition and attention to detail. So, for example, he has like a 1-second interaction with that one irrelevant guy who pretends to want to date Erica to get back at him. And he just sees a pattern, like he senses something. It's not quite concrete, but he can sense it, he can see a pattern. And he sort of like follows them to this date, which is also like display of obsessive behavior, but not obsessive as in like romance obsessive, like, oh, I'm so obsessed with her, I'm going to follow her, but more in an autistic way where you're like, okay, well, I can't stop thinking about this. A less important example of this is when Erica and Takeru are trying to get Kyouya to like Erica, and she's wearing these fake glasses and he just notices that they're fake instantly. Another important example is him remembering what the cupcake that Kusakabe got looks like, and sort of, again, in line with his strong honesty, when he's playing the boyfriend role, he also has this attention to detail. He's like, we can't let go now, your friends are watching. And he also notices the chocolate recipe book in Erica's bag. Later, I'm going to talk about why I think what the characters call Kyouya's prince mode is him masking. But basically, when he's not masking, he has a flat affect and he's also overly blunt and direct. So for example, he's spending time with Erica and he's just completely straight-faced the whole time. Not just with Erica, with his classmates sometimes too, but he mostly does mask in front of them. But basically, compared to all the other characters, he is considerably more straight-faced and has less, I don't know what you call it, intonation in his voice. Like, I mean, I watched the Japanese dub. I don't know how the English dub is, but this fits my narrative, so I'm putting it in there. And when he doesn't have a straight face, he just has like weird faces, like ones that are even described as being scary by the people around him. So, you know, when he's not masking, it's either straight face or scary.
もう子供相手に何やってんの？大人げないよ。
別に何もしてねえだろ。
For him being overly blunt and direct, I think it speaks for itself. I'm just going to play some examples.
学校のプリントとかもろもろ届けに来たんだけど。
なんでお前なんだよ。クラス違うだ。ご苦労さん。用済んだらさっさと帰ってくれ。
だから全然気にしなくていいよ。
は？誰が気にしてるっつった？
綺麗だね。
永遠花見て何が楽しいんだか。興味ねえよ。甘いもん嫌いだし。押し付けられた分は全部タケルに食わせるしな。毎年迷惑なんだよ。一番鬱陶しいイベント。見て
4組同じクラス。1年間よろしくね。
何をそんなに浮かれてんだか。たかが同じクラス。
に本気の彼女ができたらダブルデートしようね。
遠慮しとくか。お前なんでまだいるんだ？タケルのこと見たらすぐ帰るって言ったよな。
いやー、京也にこんな面白い友達がいたとはな。
友達じゃねえ。おい、何枚取るんだ。さっさと食えよ。
記念。帰ったらファイルするの。京也くんにも後であげようか。
いらん。
京也くん、やろう。
やらん。欲しい景品もない。
京也くん、食べよう。
いらん。熱い。病人食と思えないくらい具沢山だな。つうか頼んでねえけど。
花火綺麗だったわね。
ほとんど見てないだろ。
そうだったわね。エリカちゃんっていい子よね。さすが京くん、見る目ある。
別にあいつがまとわりついてくるだけだ。
俺もお盆は島根のばあちゃんとこ行くけど、それ以外開けるから遊んで。
一生島根にいれば。
The main plot of this shoujo is centered around Kyouya's difficulty expressing and understanding emotions, which is an autistic trait. Unlike his sister, he greatly struggles to understand and work through his feelings about his parents' divorce. And he completely emotionally shuts down and stops expressing his emotions. You know, he starts masking in front of his mother. And his difficulty to work through this divorce could also be tied to difficulty navigating change. And his general hesitance to enter a relationship with Erica is also attributable to these difficulties navigating change, expressing emotions, and understanding them. One specific episode where I think his difficulty with emotions really stands out is Erica's birthday episode, where she asks him for love for her birthday. And he's truly perplexed by this, but because he promised that he was going to get what she asked for, he puts his whole badassi into figuring out what she wants. And he's talking to his friends and he's like, what the hell even is love? And he's like, I'm not bashful. It just feels weird to express my emotions like that. And then he overhears that she just wants him to say, I love you. And he really struggles with saying it. And he's only able to say it because a car passed by.
少し外の空気を吸ってくる。なあ、お前何のつもりでこんなことしてるわけ？いつも俺にタラタラ不満言ってるくせに、なんか目的でもあんの？今度からはもうちょっとまめに来るよ。
どうしたの京也くん。
いや、なんか急にムカムカしてきて。そもそも何なんだ愛って。抽象的すぎて全くわからん。
And then here's a little miscellaneous interlude for any scenes that I couldn't directly categorize, but I still wanted to include them because I thought they were autism coded.
あ、さんちゃん、ポテグラとチョコどっち先に開ける？
どっちも開けんな。手が汚れる。切ったのか髪。
反応してくれた。どうですかね。
ああ、そうだな。いいんじゃねえか。前のでもどっちでも。
それって結局どっち？
久しぶりね京くん。元気だった？
まあ普通に。
そっかそっか、普通が一番よね。
幼少の頃のトラウマとか、捨てられて憎んでるとか、仲違いで埋まらない確執とか、そういったもんは一切ないからな。前にも言ったろ。なんとも思ってないって。
So I've left this for last, and it's reduced empathy. And this also speaks for itself. But I'm going to tie this into why I don't think that Kyouya fits the narcissistic personality disorder profile. So basically, when Kyouya struggles to have empathy is when something bad happens to the other person, but they don't have an intense emotional reaction to it. So I'd say he struggles with empathy most when he doesn't have an emotion to mirror. So like Erica's clothes getting wet, or her having to run for the stick that he throws, which was really cruel. But for example, when Erica's crying about the unimportant guy, even though he doesn't show empathy in a traditional sense where he's still like, I'm not buying you something just because you're depressed. He tries to make her feel better from his systemizing viewpoint. So he's like, that's not even real love. Like, don't worry about it. He's unimportant. And more simple things, for example, when Erica falls or has a stomach ache. I hope what I'm saying is making sense. But basically, he has the capability to empathize with those around him. For example, when he sees that Erica really wants to make him chocolates, he can compromise and say, okay, as long as it's not sweet. Or when Erica wants PDA, he's like, okay, fine, you can feed me the takoyaki. Even though he knows it's going to make, and he says this, he was like, I just knew this was going to make me embarrassed dog. My favorite instance of him showing empathy is when Erica's lost her necklace and she's crying, searching for it in the trash because even though it's an object, he gave it to her and it's very precious to her. And Kyouya's sister is like, oh my God, Erica, don't worry about it. The feelings are still there. It's just an object. We'll get a new one. But he approaches the situation of making her feel better in a different viewpoint because even though it might not make sense to him from a logical viewpoint, she's having this intense emotional reaction. And he just mirrors the behavior that she's doing to cope with this emotional reaction. Anyway, getting back into the, I don't think he fits into the narcissistic personality disorder profile. My first reason is that he can show empathy. My second reason is that his prince mode isn't a tool for his personal gain. He doesn't actually use it to elevate his status in the eyes of others or get girls. And my evidence for this is the fact that whenever we see him in prince mode, he's never trying to pick up girls. Like even before he meets Erica, he bumps into this girl and he's just polite. Like he doesn't flirt at all. And you could argue the opposite using the predator lady as an example. If he's not flirting, why is she in his house? Or when he says to the irrelevant guy or Nozomi that he's just like them. But I think that he says he's like them not because he's actively getting girls, but because he wasn't serious about any girls. Because he himself constantly says, I don't mess around with girls. That's not what I do. I don't have the energy for that. So I think that the prince mode is him masking and he's just polite in this mode. But because he's an attractive man who's polite and that's unfortunately rare, a lot of girls follow him around, which his sister also describes it that way. They're just following him around. He's not actively seeking out to get these girls and he's not really fussed about anything he can get from them. And I'd say the fact that when he broke up with Erica, he stops masking around the other girls, one of them who gives him a cupcake and he's just like, I don't fucking want that. Get that shit out of my face. Shows me that he didn't actually care about his image in the first place. Because if he was a narcissist, you know, he's got to protect his image. Also, when Erica dumps water on him at the restaurant, if he was a narcissist obsessed with image, you know, he would have been angry or at least dashed out of there. But he just sits there and he's feeling guilty. You know, he's quite calm for a narcissist in this scenario. Similar to this, for example, when she's breaking up with him for Kusakabe, he's calm and collected and respectful. And regarding Kyouya's aggression, unlike his sister, whenever we see him being aggressive, his main intention isn't to punish or control, but rather it's him struggling to process his jealousy. But regardless, his actions do still have the unintended consequence of being punishments for Erika and him just exerting control over her. Also unrelated but funny that Kyoya's talking about his sister cutting up his clothes and shaving his hair off. And then Takeru is like, yeah, that's just how sisters are. My sister drew a turtle on my abs. Like, that is not the same thing. Am I missing something? The fact that he gets so aggressive when he's jealous, I think, is sort of linked with the fact that he can't understand those feelings of jealousy, which frustrates him more.
装飾系バカじゃねえあんな奴らはビビって女にモーションかけられねえだけのただのふぬけじゃねえかそんな情けない男と一緒にすんじゃねえよ
確かにパッと見派手じゃないしちょっと気の弱いとこもあるけどあんたみたいに人のこと絶対バカにしたりしないし人の気持ち考えれる優しい人だよそういう意味じゃあんたよりずっと勝ってると思うけど
Now she thinks that we're weird!
Now, to show why my headcanon makes everything more fun, I'm going to start by talking about how boring the original story is. Kyoya is a prideful but also insecure guy who can't understand the reason behind his parents' divorce, which happened when he was a kid. So he became a playboy who shut his heart to love. And then this girl comes around and she persists. She won't leave despite all of the self-sabotage he does. And he does have some feelings for her from the start as well because he's jealous, unlike the other girls that this playboy's with. And he falls in love and he realizes that his parents' divorce had a reason behind it, which is signified by the snowman being crumpled by his sister instead of falling on its own. He makes peace with it. He's in love. The end. The biggest problem with this show is that the viewers struggle to empathize with Kyoya because he is this way because he went through an event and he refuses to work through it. Whereas with this headcanon, you see him as a neurodivergent teenager who is struggling to understand his own emotions and other people's emotions. This headcanon also changes his intent when he hurts people. It's not coming from a place of self-sabotage, it's coming from a place of confusion. It makes him a much more empathizable character. I think he needs to put in way more work to understanding himself and maturing before he can have a healthy relationship with anyone. You know, so this headcanon isn't to be like, everything that he did was okay, because he's just an autistic man who can't help himself. And their romance is awesome. That's not what I'm saying. This is a turbulent romance. This headcanon isn't here to justify his actions. He's still responsible for keeping himself in check and being considerate of those around him. So now I'm going to go over how the story changes, starting with the dog master and the fake relationship plotline. So in both stories, him suggesting fake dating is already showing that he likes her because you would not suggest to fake date someone you did not find physically attractive. And based off his illness plot, where he mentions he doesn't like it when girls are overly nice to him just to get him to like them, from this we can concur that at this point he would have probably also had some emotional attraction to Erika because she's like this breath of fresh air. She's not really trying to get him to like her. She's just like, man, I fucked up. I'm in a doozy. Okay, so the canon and the headcanon diverges here, where in the canon, there isn't a strong reason as to why he suggests a dog-master relationship. The dog-master relationship is purely to tease her. Whereas with this headcanon, the reason he suggests this dog-master relationship is because he loves dogs so much, and he can't understand his complex feeling of having a crush on Erika. And in his mind, it's similar to the way he sees his dog, as in he finds her cute, and he wants to spend time with her, and he wants her to be attached to him. So he isn't saying dog master to tease her. He's saying dog master because the way that he can get romantic relationships to make sense for him is to view it from a dog master point of view. So the fact that when Erika's like, does he like me or does he see me as a dog? Him seeing you as a dog means he likes you. He's relating his special interest in dogs into romantic relationships. And I think the fact that he refers to the dog-master relationship every time something more serious happens between them, I think it's him trying to ease some of his lack of understanding. So like something happens and he has all these feelings and he's like, oh, don't worry, I'm not confused. We are in a dog-master relationship. This is what that is, yeah. Also in the original story, the reason why he honors this fake dating is weaker and it's just attributed to him liking her. Whereas why he honors it in this headcanon is to do with his moral code of like, okay, I have this agreement, I can't break it. Now on to the next plotline. This is the one that changes the most. And I'm calling this the who knows plotline. And it's the period of time where Erika is like, dog, I like you, do you like me? And he's like, who knows? Let's talk about when Erika first confesses to him and he's like, no, this is completely attributed to self-sabotage in the canon plot because he's scared this relationship's gonna end because he's a child of divorce, as implied by the presence of the mangled snowman. In my canon, the reason he does that is because he truly believes that and he's having these feelings too and he's attributed them to the fake dating. So he's like, oh yeah, that's what she's having. So then when she comes back and she's like, no, I actually do like you. Do you like me? When he says, who knows? He's not continuing a sabotage. He genuinely doesn't know. He needs more time. Erica can figure out that she likes him when he punches that other guy and tries to comfort her, because she can understand what romantically liking someone is. But it's not so simple for him. So he needs more time, and that's what he asks of Erica. And because his actions are purely self-sabotage in the canon, when Erica's hanging around trying to get him to make a decision, we're all like, girl, leave. Whereas in the headcanon, I was like, girl, wait. He just told you he didn't know. But just to add, leaving would still be valid. You don't have to wait for anyone if you don't want to. You know, when he says the only way you'll get me is by sticking around, he isn't asking Erica to stay around until he feels ready to change, but more so he's asking her to stick around until he can truly understand his emotions. And now I get to the fake confession scene from kyouya. Honestly, with the original material, when I was watching this, I was surprised by this. I was like, yeah, he self-sabotages, but he continued after she cried. I did not expect that from him, because we've seen him show empathy when she does cry, when she's in like a really bad headspace. We've seen him show empathy. So I was like, wait, he carried this on? Whereas this confusion dissipates with my headcanon, because I start to think of the scenario like this. The fake confession at the booth was actually a genuine confession. Obviously, he was not ready to give it. He's been saying, I'm not ready. I don't know. And she's like, what the hell? What do you mean you don't know? Just give me a yes or no, bro. And he's like, I don't know. You just gotta I don't know. Fucking wait and see. I don't know. And then she's like, okay, well, I'm going to splash your face with water if you don't tell me. He wants to truly understand whether his feelings are romantic before he can commit to a relationship, because he doesn't want to go through what his parents went through. But he also doesn't want to say no, because when he's been seeing Erica with other people, he's been getting these intense negative feelings, which, by the way, I think the reason that he gets so aggressive when he's jealous becomes more empathizable with my headcanon, because I see it as this is a feeling that frustrates him and he doesn't understand it, which frustrates him even more. Not justifying his jealousy actions, because he truly sucks when he's jealous. But I'm not as, oh my God, kill this man when he's jealous. I'm more like, oh my God, he sucks. He needs to work through this. I'm rooting for him. Ganbatte ne, Kyo-chan. That was so fucking gross. Anyway, that's my side tangent about the jealousy over. Basically, both options are poop and fart for him. And he decides to, in this situation, just pick the better scenario and just roll with it. So he's like, okay, I like you. She persisted. He decided to go accept her feelings, but it wasn't 100% true, and he wasn't 100% sure yet. So he came up with the idea that was like, wait, I'll just play it off as a prank. And it backfired. Unlike in the canon, where this was an intentional self-sabotage prank that went too far. He decides to say it was a prank out of regret, because he didn't feel ready. Now this who knows plot ends when he becomes more sure after he sees Erica with Kusakabe. And he's like, okay, yeah, I do like you. And we get to their dating arc. And when you see him as a neurodivergent teenager navigating love and being out of his comfort zone for probably the first time, his difficulty saying I love you, his whining at dates, the story becomes more, I guess, endearing is the word. Imagine you're kyouya. So you go into this relationship and you expect the dynamic to be mostly different. As in, you can just be yourself. But then you realize what she expects of you is what other couples do. So then you don't understand, how is this different from pretending to be in a relationship? This isn't what I thought a relationship that I would go into would be like. This is what I thought other people's relationships might look like, but this is not how I imagined a relationship would go like for me, because I don't like these things. One specific scene where I interpret his intentions to be different than the canon is when Eric is talking about all the plans that she's made for her birthday, and her friend is like, wait, you're planning your own birthday? And we get to a shot of his eyes where when you see him as how he was intended to be seen by the authors, you think, oh, is he embarrassed by his own self-sabotage, or embarrassed because other people are calling out his lack of effort? But in my beautiful fanon perspective, I see this as him not even considering planning your girlfriend's birthday as an option. I see it as him thinking, oh wait, what the fuck? I didn't realize that that would have been a thing that she liked. I thought that her choosing would have been better because she chose it. Fuck, I didn't know that was a fucking option. Now I'm going to talk about how his interpersonal relationships change between the fanon and canon in the source material. Kyouya's lack of friends doesn't really hold any plot significance. There is an added depth to this characteristic of his when you see him as a neurodivergent teenager who struggles to make friends because he struggles with socialization rather than it being a part of his cool guy, loner, mysterious persona. And here's my favorite part about this headcanon. Throughout the show, all of the characters understand kyouya the way the authors intended for him to be understood. So when you adapt this fanon, you end up seeing him in a completely different way to all of the characters, and you realize, oh my God, no one close to him understands him. The whole story is about kyouya navigating his emotions. But in the story that the authors intended to tell, Kyouya has the capability to understand his emotions by himself without much support. Whereas in my headcanon, he may never even be able to understand and comprehend complex emotions. He can get support, he can get better, and he can understand himself more. But he's never going to be the same as everyone else around him.
When you were here before, when I look you in the eye, you're just like an angel. Your skin make me cry. Your first love of filter.
I've been obsessively thinking about this, so if you have anything you disagree with, agree with, want to talk about more, please comment. I want to talk to people about this. I need to talk to people about this. I'll give you a super detailed reply, I promise.